Please help me, like this video and subscribe. I really appreciate your help. Parents who have checked their child's internet history. What is the weirdest or most fed up thing you found on it? Not me, but my boss told me a story of his 8-year-old son's YouTube history. Apparently he would take the iPad and just watch videos of Asian children crying for hours on end. You never know, he might grow up to be the next Steve Jobs. While I'm not a parent, I once helped a family set up their home computer network, and in the course of doing so, I ran into a patently bizarre sort of family feud. At the time of this story, I was casually acquainted with a young woman who had, via a process of not so subtle suggestion and outright pleading, convinced her aunt, Ellen, we'll call her, to finally get her children, ages 10 and 12, their own personal computers. Why this was such a powerful obsession for my friend is still unknown to me, but I agreed with the sentiment. After all, these kids had been limited to using the family computer for the majority of their lives, which had made school projects and socialization alike into somewhat difficult tasks. After having finally been convinced, Aunt Ellen bought each of her children a desktop computer. Then, to further cement her household's position in the information age, she switched from the bottom rung DSL connection they'd been using and upgraded to a respectably fast cable service. The inclusion of television channels and a home phone line may have helped her with that decision. However, she discovered with some dismay that setting up her network was a bit of a daunting challenge. That's where I came in. At first, this seemed like it would be a simple endeavor. I'd just set up a router, install a couple of wireless NICs, and be done with it. However, Aunt Ellen had a few special requests. The most important thing, she told me, is an internet password. I nodded my understanding, though I wasn't completely sure what she wanted. Do you mean a Wi-Fi password? I asked. Something to protect your wireless network? Oh, yes, certainly that, replied Aunt Ellen. But I also want to keep my kids off the internet. If it's past dinner time, that's when all the creeps come out. Well, that was fine. I had some private thoughts on the matter, but I wasn't there to offer parenting advice or play internet educator. I set up the network, put the necessary conditions in place on the router, and moved on. Okay, great, Aunt Ellen said, visibly pleased. Next, put passwords on each of the new computers. She didn't immediately offer an explanation for this, but my assumption was that it was to keep her son, the 10-year-old, from snooping on his sister's machine, and vice versa. Do you want to have your kids set up their own passwords? I asked. Aunt Ellen's answer was accompanied by a look of shock. Oh, no, only my husband and I will know them. I don't want my kids on the computer without permission. Again, this seemed counterproductive to me, but I held my tongue and did her bidding. With everything complete, my final task was to reconnect the family computer to the network and go on my merry way. I didn't know it at the time, but my job was only halfway finished. The following day, I received a phone call from my friend. Her Aunt Ellen, it seemed, was having some unspecified difficulties with the new network setup, and she wanted to know if I could stop by to help with them. I was wary of becoming the family's personal ed technician, but the fear that I'd done something wrong brought me back to their house. Upon arrival, Aunt Ellen explained to me that her husband had been unable to check his email the night before. I know you did your best, she said, but do you think maybe something went wrong? Well, I can certainly find out, I replied. Do you know if he used the right password? Remember, if it's after 7, you need to enter it first. Aunt Ellen smiled and nodded. Oh, yes, definitely. I even tried it myself. I was skeptical, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt and pulled up the router's configuration page. Everything seemed to be in order, except for an extra entry that I'd never seen before. It specifically locked a handful of URLs, each of them clearly pornographic in nature, and had the curious label of NOFACEBOOK equals NOPORN. I need to check something, I told Aunt Ellen. Do you mind if I look at? I thought for a brief moment before continuing. May I look at your daughter's computer? We went up to the girl's room and had a look at the computer in question. After Aunt Ellen made me avert my gaze while she entered the necessary password, lo and behold, somebody had created a second administrator account, and their browser history showed that it had been used the night before to access the router. Suddenly, it dawned on me, I'd never changed the router's default password, and Aunt Ellen's sweet, innocent, 12-year-old daughter had taken it upon herself to passive-aggressively block her father's access to his pornography. It was, to say the least, an awkward predicament. Fortunately, I managed to resolve the situation, while leaving everyone's pride intact, although it took a lot more finesse than I had expected the task to require. In the end, the father's browsing capabilities were restored, the router's password was changed, and nobody, save perhaps the 12-year-old, was any wiser, and even though I undid her work, I left the bent paperclip that I saw beside the girl's keyboard. TL Doctor, a precocious preteen passive-aggressively prohibited paternal pornography. Stepdaughter was into Ninja Turtles for a while. She would read fanfiction and roleplay with some random people. She would pretend to be pregnant with turtle babies, triplets, and another time she was one of the Ninja Turtles having gay sex with another turtle. A direct quote was, "I rub my DK on your DK and moan lightly. There are some things you do not need to find. Lol." I hope in 15 years she googles that exact quote and an archive of this comment appears. When I was around 12 I would look up 12-year-old girls naked porn. Surprised we never got a visit from the government. Although this probably put me on a list. Edit. And my top comment is about one of my creepy childhood fetishes. Wonderful. I used to do the same, then I realized that it was illegal. My son is 16 now, so this was about 4 years ago. I had got a new tablet, and he had gotten in the habit of taking it into his room to play games on. I got curious one day and looked at the search history. Pokemon cheat code, Halo map, Big Bobbis, DK suck, Minecraft. It was such an odd mix I had to laugh. I bookmarked some sites that he could look at that weren't hardcore porn, see swimsuit site, etc. I let him know he could look at these, and it was okay. The last few years he's had his own laptop and I really don't even bother anymore. Trying to control a teenage boy's masturbatory habits is the definition of fighting a losing battle. Not a parent story, but close enough. Used to be the ed department for a kinda through 5th grade school. Once we actually received a budget to purchase laptops for the classrooms, I was tasked with imaging them all, and also implementing a web content filter, which we hadn't had previously, since it was before students had computer access. Well, I wanted to make sure my filter was working well. So naturally, I test it. My go-to site is always bobs.com, because it's relatively benign. Or it was, haven't checked it in 10 years, and it should always trigger a filter. It gets blocked, filter works, life is good. I deliver laptops to the classrooms and go about my job as usual. A few months later, a teacher comes ripping down into my office holding a laptop, breathlessly yelling, "We have a problem. The kids are systematically trying to bypass the filter." I'm like, whoa, how do you know? I've checked 10 machines now, and every one of them has bobs.com in the search history. As soon as she said it, I realized my mistake. I used the first laptop to check the filter, which happened to be the laptop I used to create the donor image that I then cloned onto every other laptop in the school. I successfully put bobs.com as the only address in the search history on every school computer. You're welcome, parents. I received my first computer when I was 15. Before that, my only interaction with the internet was when I visited my older, married sister during the summer. My first experience with the internet was when I was 12. I visited my sister, and she left me alone in the house for the day while she and my bill worked. My parents did that all the time. It was cool. That night when he got home, my bill sat me down. He had a little smirk on his face. He thought he caught me red-handed. "Did you know my computer keeps a record of the websites you visit?" No, I didn't. He proceeds to pull up his internet history and sees 9 hours of activity of Animorphs, searching for Animorph websites, posting in Animorph forums, reading about Animorphs, reading Animorph fanfiction, looking at Animorph fan art, just Animorphs. My guess is he expected me to look up porn, and instead of telling me not to do it ahead of time, he thought it was fair and reasonable to bust my balls after the fact and humiliate me. But FK that douche bag. Animorphs is where it's at. I'll shame this young child entering puberty about his growing sexual curiosity. That'll show him. Ha ha ha. My friend's kid searched on cows pooping and apparently watched many YouTube videos of cows pooping. I heard my son saying to Siri, "Siri, show me videos of hippos pooping." A minute later I hear dubstep coming from the iPad. Siri had given him a video of hippos pooping set to dubstep. Thank you very much for watching. Write in the comments below the video. Parents who have checked their child's internet history. What is the weirdest or most fked up thing you found on it? And also do not forget to watch our other videos. Bye.